Just 3-year-olds.
I'm gonna try it.
You're going to try it this year, yeah?
But as soon as I see that they don't make good prices, I stop them.
You stop them,
Yeah.
So, unlike a widowwood fancier, he can race the hens as young pigeons, and maybe he'll have a few late races with the hens on nest or early races on nest, and he can select his hens like that for breeding potential. How will you select the cocks for their breeding potential when you're only racing hens?
There are some places available here.
Yeah.
And the best racing cocks, of the best young cocks who have raced, came here, and I try them against the yearlings.
Yeah.
When they are 2 years old, I try the best ones out in boxes. And after 2 years, I know it.
Yeah.
They have had several hens, so I see when.
Yeah. So the young cocks that you've played on the races with, you'll couple them in here with hens. After that, you'll have them on a bull system, coupling them with 3-4 hens.
Yep.
So within 2 seasons, you know what they're producing. Yeah. We can't argue with the results. So obviously the system's working. Yeah. And the loft, the total length of the loft. What is the length of the loft?
The section of the hens is, I think, 6 meters.
6 meters, yeah. And again, you can't close the ceiling off. It's just a wire ceiling, tiled roof. On the other side are the breeders, which are on the front side with the aviaries. No ventilation on the front again, just the plastic windows. Any heat in here with the hens? No heat for the early part of the season? No.
The sun.
Just the sun. Yeah. And you was telling me earlier, this loft and the young pigeon loft are always warmer than the breeding loft.
Yeah.
And see, which direction will this loft face? Because it's facing opposite to the young bird loft.
No, it's east side.
This faces east.
Yeah. Young birds is south.
The young birds is south.
And the breeders is west.
Is west. So would you say west is a bad position to face a racing loft then? If it's always colder than you? Yeah. Don't face your racing loft west. Yeah.
I'm not for sure, but
yeah. Judging on what's happening in your garden,
I should
don't put the loft facing west.
Yeah.
With the hens, Freddie, when you're racing cocks, you can see how they're playing around a loft. They're flying high, flying on their own, coming back. When I've had hens, you let hens out and they fly in a very tight group and they fly well. But how can you tell when a hen is right for the race? You know, when you feel confident that you're going to bet heavy on her.
When I open the windows and they come in, they must not hesitate 1 second to enter their box.
Yeah.
When they are going to the floor or to another box, it isn't right.
Yeah. And they'll come straight back in, through the windows, straight into the box.
Straight into the box.
When a hen does that, you're confident of a good flight.
I am.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
and it don't matter if she has had much food or not much food. It's nothing to do with the food.
Yeah, you told me earlier you've got to be careful feeding hens. With cocks, it's a little bit easier than feeding hens. You must keep the hens on diet longer, so that they're still eating on the last day.
Yeah. They eat as much as on the last day as at the first day.
Yeah, you've got this thing about feeding whereby you don't weigh the food.
No.
A good fancier can see how much pigeon needs to eat.
And every pigeon is different.
Every pigeon.
I know this one needs more food than this one.
Yeah.
So you have to see it.
Yeah. We're going to have a look at your mixtures now, your different mixtures, what you use, because you don't just use one bag.
No.
You use different bags. Yeah.
And different marks.
Different companies, different makes from different companies, yeah. And your tea that we mentioned earlier, you're a big tea user. We'll have a look, yeah?
We're gonna have a look.
And if a pigeon's late back from the flight, Freddie, is there anything you'll do then?
He don't go into the loft.
No.
He goes here in the separate boxes,
Right.
and he stays here for, let's say, a week. And in this week, he gets a treatment against trichomonas, coccidiose, and worms.
Worms, yeah.
So-
You'll treat your pigeons for worms, yeah.
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 When they are coming back.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
How late?
not.
You know, is that not if they're the next day?
No.
How late?
Let's say 2 days.
Yeah.
When they are totally lost.
Yeah.
When they are not totally lost, they go to the loft.
Yeah.
Into the loft. That's no problem. But after 3-4 days, they
Yeah. That's probably somewhere where a lot of fanciers fall down. A pigeon's missing 2 days. It comes back. They let him straight in the loft.
Yep.
Here,
no.
again, you're a man for attention to detail,
Yep.
aren't you? Yeah. Yeah. And they'll have a cure, like you say, trichomoniasis, coccidiosis,
worms.
and worms. Yeah.
Yep.
And you get no. You were saying earlier with all the straw, no coccidiosis.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I have noticed while I've been going around your loft, Freddie, and that's grit. You've got a big thing with grit, haven't you? There's no grit pot where the grit's put all week. Every box has fresh grit.
Yep.
Every day, and the young
Every
pigeons
day.
also grit
Also, yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you do this as opposed to?
Because I noticed the pigeons like the new grit when I put them in the morning into the pot or the things. They like it. When you left them for 3-4 days, they don't eat
Yeah.
it anymore.
So,
So I think for their
yeah, for the digestive system and
it's
everything
better
get from
that
it, yeah.
they get every time. And also I noticed also when I let my pigeons out and I give them not new grit, they go
They want to be pecking on a garden.
yeah, in the garden.
Yeah, so fresh grit every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've shown us these 3 products, Freddie, that you use. They're fairly ordinary products. Any pigeon fancier can buy. Your results aren't fairly ordinary though. They're quite outstanding, which is one of the reasons we've come here. Have you any other products in this cupboard that you can show us that you use? You've got that grin on you. Every fancier says, oh, but he didn't show us his secrets. Show us your secrets. What else do you give?
I think I showed already my secrets with the pigeons.
With the pigeons,
That's the biggest secret. The second secret is the motivation of the fancier himself.
yeah.
And then you have some products to help. So we have here the 2 things I use.
Tea.
Tea for in the water, and I put some cedacol.
Cedacol. Tea and cedacol.
Cedacol.
Yeah. And how many days will you give this tea?
As many as possible, but in mostly 3 or 4 days in a week.
3 or 4 days, yeah.
Yeah.
And why do you give it 3 or 4 days as opposed to just 1 day?
I believe with tea you need a certain period to give
Yeah.
it to, that it has effect.
An effect, yeah. And then this tea's from your local veterinary?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Tea from the vet. Right, remember that one. And the other product there, the orange product, that's
It's
cedacol.
Cedacol.
Yeah. And you put the cedacol on the corn?
No,
Or
in with the tea.
in with the tea, in the
Yeah.
water
In the
with
water
the tea.
with tea.
3-4 days a week, the same as
Yep.
the tea.
Yep.
Which days will you give the tea? At the beginning of the week or towards the end of the week?
Let's say from Monday to Tuesday.
Yeah, Monday to
Something,
Thursday,
yeah.
yeah. Anything else in there?
Yeah, that's another thing for
Yeah. Flagyl for
Yeah.
trichomoniasis,
Yep.
just like metronidazole tablets, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, Flagyl, yeah.
Then we have
Former. These are just eye cleaning drops
Yep.
for to disinfect the eyes. Yeah?
Yep.
Do you give this when they return or before they go?
Yep.
Or
2 times a week, and
2
that's the
times a
same thing.
Yeah. They're just ordinary drops from Fabry.
Yeah.
And this, it's just terramycin. Yeah. Just
Also
again,
for-
if they've had a peck in
Yep.
the eye, just to stop anything
Yep.
nasty coming up in their eyes. It's just ordinary terramycin. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. The only other time
That's all we
is,
have here. The tea against.
yeah,
For the
more tea,
breeders.
more tea.
More tea.
You're nearly an Englishman, aren't you?
Yeah.
And that's it. The only
That's
other
it.
time is
Yeah.
if there's a problem,
Yeah.
you go down to the local vet who
Yep.
supplies you tea, and he sorts it out for you.
Only we get when we have problems with the coli.
Yeah,
Then we go also to the vet,
yeah,
and he gives us something to treat them.
yeah. Now, feeding. This is something that a lot of fanciers fall down on. We've seen grains or bags of corn, mixtures marketed by companies for different fanciers. This is the expert mix. There's not a corn company in the world that could market your food because you have several different sorts of mixture.
Yeah.
So how do you go about feeding?
I start feeding them in the beginning of the week with super diet
What, just that super diet, or do you
Yeah.
take super diet from 3 different firms?
from 3 different firms. I have it
Yeah.
from Beyers, from Verzelen, and van Robijs.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's
I
the...
mix it all together,
Yeah.
and sometimes I do a little bit of Mariman also in it.
Yeah, a bit of
So-
Mariman super diet, yeah. Yeah. And you take them all together, mix it
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
and that. What about your sport mixture?
I use also 5 different companies,
Yeah.
marks of companies, and I mix it all together. I started with super diet in the beginning
Yeah.
of the week, and then when we come in the middle of the week, I start to mix the super diet with the
Yeah.
sport.
Yeah.
And at the end of the week, I stopped with the diet in it, and I put some maize in it.
Maize. Yeah. Any particular maize? Just
Just-
good maize, yeah?
yeah.
Cribs maize, yeah?
From the local.
Corn merchant, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know preference for popcorn maize, cribs maize?
No,
You're not bothered, just
I
maize.
listen to the man who have the store, and he says that's the best one at this moment, and I use this one.
That's the one you take.
Yeah.
When the birds return from a flight, which food will they have? Will they have sport mix, diet mix, super diet? And they'll have super diet until the middle of the week,
Yeah.
and
Then
then
I
50-50 start increasing.
Let's say not 50-50. I said 100%, 0%.
Yeah.
And then 90, 10,
Yeah.
80, and then I
Yeah.
go to 50-50, and then we are Wednesday, and then I stopped with the diet, and I go for full sport, and the last day mice.
Yeah, you see, you're quite fortunate in the sense that you've got the feeding off to an art in the fingers. You can see it and you can feel
Yep.
it. For a guy that struggles to feed his pigeons, because most people, this is the area where they're falling down. Most people can get good pigeons, they can build a good loft, but they don't know how to feed the pigeons. What is a good indication of somebody that's given their pigeon either too much or too little feed? How many grains of food will a pigeon leave if he has too much or if he has too little?
I think too little you can't see, because there is nothing left. Too much for my hands, it's 5 corns.
Yeah,
That's too much.
5 individual. If a bird's got 5 individual grains left, you've fed him too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you do that one time, that's no problem. But when you do that a whole week, at the end of the week, he has 10 feeding
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. So there's 50 grains over,
Yeah.
and that's a lot in a
And
pigeon, you
that's
think.
too much. Yeah.
And another thing I'd like to talk about feeding, your young pigeons. Your young pigeons, they raced, driving the hens to nest.
Yeah.
sitting eggs, feeding small youngsters, feeding big youngsters. When you feed the young pigeons, what's your system when you're feeding the young pigeons? Do you just give them as much as they want, twice a day or once a day? How do you decide when the young birds have had enough food?
When I feel it.
Again,
It's not, I see in some things that they say, I stopped when the first one is going to the drink pot.
drinking pot, yeah.
I think it's that's not, because when you have youngsters with youngsters,
Yeah.
they go faster to the drink pot than another one who has eggs. There is then someone who is coming from his nest after 1 minute, the others are eating. So this is the one who is going, probably eating the last one, or is probably, for sometimes he is nest, pick some grains, hop, and is back on his nest. You can't stop then, you must feel it,
Yeah.
you must look. And I don't put it all together in the feeding box.
No.
I put a little, see, put a little back again in it. So I feed one time,
Yeah.
but I don't put it all together. Yeah.
A little at a time.
Yeah.
Watch the pigeons. We've spoke about grit, gathering dust in the loft. What about a water pot? Because water is the biggest carrier disease in the world, really. You know, humans. How much care do you take with the drinking pots in the loft?
A lot of.
A lot of.
Because I clean it every day, and they get it back, the same drinking pot, only 2-3 days after
Yeah.
this was washed out.
So they're washed, left to dry,
Yeah.
and a new drinking pot.
It's also the system with the hens. I have a pot and I have
fresh
waiting.
drinking
Yeah.
pots. Yeah, everything, every drinking vessel is ×2 in this loft.
Yeah.
Yep. But the breeding pigeons, that's totally different from the flyers, isn't it? Your system with the breeding pigeons, totally different. You wash the drinkers, but you don't change the drinkers. They don't have no vitamins.
Yep.
They
With the
have
breeders, I
nothing.
don't give medication.
No medication.
I don't wash out the pots, the drink pots. I do nothing.
Nothing.
They have to do it with water and corn.
Yeah. And I take it that's to provide some good natural immunity for the youngsters they're breeding. What about at the end of the season? End of season care. Everybody's talking about for 10 days we give a cure for paratyphus, or some people even vaccinating to try and stop paratyphus. Anything like that here?
No.
There's no cure for paratyphus at the end of the season? Nothing?
No.
No cure, nothing. And what about if you bring a pigeon in then from another loft as an introduction, will he go through the same system as what
Yearling.
these do? Yeah.
And the drops are
Yeah.
going to the vet,
To the vet, yeah.
and they are controlled
Yeah.
for coccidia worms and paratyphus.
Yeah.
That's something I do a lot of times. I bring some drops to the
for testing, yeah.
for testing in the I don't know it in English, the UZ we call it here.
In the off season, yeah.
The Veertse School, the school where they teach.
Ghent. You take them to Ghent University.
Yeah, the University of Ghent.
Yeah. And is that in the winter time then? You'll take your droppings to Ghent, yeah?
And
we
in the
do it
summertime.
in the summertime
Yeah,
also?
Yeah.
Yeah. Always to Ghent, yeah.
Yeah.
When you take a dropping sample, how many droppings will you take? Will you know,
From 5 days,
yeah.
from as many pigeons as possible.
Yeah. And can I ask, what does the university charge for having those droppings screened for a fancier? When I take my droppings to Ghent and say, please test my droppings, if I take droppings from 50 pigeons, say,
it's for the first style.
yeah,
For the first thing you put there,
Yeah.
it's about 15 euros.
15 euros, yeah.
And every time you put another
Yeah,
on the same day, it's about 3-4 euros.
3 or 4 euros for every extra sample, yeah. So if you take 10 samples, then it's 27 and 15, yeah. It's 40 odd euros,
Yeah.
so about £30. You get all your pigeons tested, and they test for what? Worms, coccidiosis, trichomoniasis?
No, trichomoniasis not.
No,
Uh,
that's with the throat, yeah.
yeah, paratyphus.
Paratyphus
Yeah.
as well,
Especially for that.
especially for that, yeah.
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 So why giving vaccination when they don't have
When
it?
they don't have it, no. Freddy, you've got a code on the wall by the drinking pots. What is this for?
That's the 2 crosses is for the drink pots for the hens and their cocks,
Yeah.
and the one is for the young birds.
Yeah.
And when there is no crossing on it, it's for the breeders.
Yeah.
When I wash it, but
Yeah. This is the breeding loft, Freddy.
Yep.
It's totally different from your other lofts. Grills on the floor. In here they've got to develop a natural immunity, so hopefully pass it on to their youngsters. Medication is 0.
Yep.
Drinking pots, they're just refreshed with water. Nothing like that. They're fed on the hopper all the time, are they?
All the time. Yep.
Yeah. And the nesting boxes, they're all electronically cleaned, yeah?
Yep.
You don't like your racing birds to have the electronic boxes, no?
No.
Why don't you that? It
Because-
saves you a lot of work. You're a busy guy.
Yeah. But I don't think the pigeons are happy in the boxes, and even on that they are
Yeah.
falling. So
You don't like them, no.
No.
That's a big thing, is it, in a racing loft? Happiness.
yep.
Happiness and contentment, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.